Well, it's been a taboo subject in newsrooms for years, with the resistance against reporting on suicide stemming from fears that it would inspire copycats. But through this pandemic, can it continue to be ignored? At a time when rates are presumed to grow substantially, do journalists have a larger responsibility to bring light to these issues? It's interesting, isn't it, Reggie, that we don't really speak about mental health impacts of coronavirus on this show. Well, we do on this show, but other people aren't. It is a topic that's being largely ignored by the mainstream media. Do you think ignoring this hard truth is doing more damage than good?
Yes, I think it should be spoken about. I mean, I've dealt with suicide in my family. And I've even been down that track where I've been down that dark path where I didn't want to be here anymore. And there is, like they say, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it should be spoken about, because when people reach out to you and help you, it does change things, and the media should speak about it more. My mum, she's mental health. She's a paranoid schizophrenic, and I've dealt with that all my life. And even with Ben, with his family as well, like suicide's a big thing, and it should be spoken about. It shouldn't be brushed under the carpet at all.
Well, it certainly was a thing for many years in newsrooms, Robbo, where it wasn't spoken about if it was if that was a cause of death. That does seem to be changing a little bit, and that taboo is being broken.
Yeah, Rob, but there is science behind it as well, and where clusters have been identified, that when you put an idea into someone's head who is already feeling a little bit down, that, oh, that's the way I could do it, oh, that's worked for them. I think there just needs to be sensitivity. I agree with you and Reggie. We do need to speak about it. However, we need to put the message out there in a proper way. It cannot glorify it. It cannot go into detail. All of those things have been what the rules that have governed the newsrooms, as you said, forever. I think that you can talk about suicide. You should not talk about method, and you should not talk about location. I think those are the two things that should always remain absolutely taboo, but we should also talk about the fact that people are taking their lives. That's the difference for me.
Ben, I can see you shaking your head. Talk to me.
Well, look, I just think that it seems like, they're just some very small parts of it. Yes, and I understand that they're the parameters of how the people in the media should be able to cover it. But what we are trying to say here in this topic is anytime we are talking about mental health issues, we should be promoting people to communicate. We need to ask people more questions. We need to keep the line of conversation going. When you see someone who is in trouble, call it out. Make sure that you pick up the phone. Make sure that you ask friends and family that are surrounding those people, is that person okay? And do what it is that is needed. And when it comes to the media promoting this, I think what they need to be saying is, let's highlight some people. We had Mark Philippoussis on the show yesterday talking about mental health issues. Let's look to our heroes. Let's look to the people that are iconic, that have made a brand for themselves, and ask them for their story. Because let me tell you, sharing your story is the fight against suicide. Sharing your story and communication is the way in which we're going to be able to tackle it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Mark Philippoussis speaking about this yesterday. Let's take a look at what he actually said.
As you mentioned, with what's going on right now, with what we're hearing, especially in Victoria, of these numbers of deaths every day you're hearing about is brutal and heartbreaking. But what you pressed on and you mentioned is something that no one's talking about more in the media is what is happening to the people that are being quarantined in their homes, and depression and as far as physical violence right now or depression is very scary. That's even scarier than the COVID-19 numbers, and no one's talking about that.
I think he's got a very fair point. It is interesting, the hesitancy to talk about that issue. Robbo, sometimes though, I don't know. I don't know if I'm as hardline of what we can and can't report about it, because I think each case is different. And sometimes, do you have obviously done the research, but it's an interesting thing you said that I want to go back to, that if you talk about suicide and the way someone's done it, you really think that puts the idea into people's heads?
100%. There's many many research papers. There's been a lot of work done in this area where, yes, we are moving to the fact of we're going to say suicide. We don't say, and still in media, we're saying things like, it's, it wasn't a suspicious death. That's kind of the sentence that we use in reporting when it's kind of suicide, right? And someone's died when they shouldn't have. But yes, absolutely. The research backs it up. The evidence backs it up. I think we should shine a light on suicide. I think it's very important to do that. I think it affects a lot of people, but I really think that those parameters need to be put in place. Do not say the method and do not say the location. It's proven, it's science. There's no way out of that. But yes, we can still talk about the issue.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.